Hello, all my fellow gamers and horror film fans. I'm Mike C. Welcome into the Chrono Cabin. Do you have a desire just to watch a vampire movie, but you want to watch it with the backdrop of a big city? I know that's very specific, but I got you covered. I've got two Netflix films that I think you're going to enjoy that fit this bill.
I hope one of the movies takes place in New York. I like New York. I like their pizza. The slices are big.
Yes, Billy, the first movie is actually set in New York, and you actually watched it with me. It's kind of funny to watch Billy eat a New York pizza slice. I mean, when you put him against a pizza slice, it's kind of funny. Pizza slice is really big. So let's go to New York, East Coast, into the Bronx. The first movie is Vampires vs. the Bronx. This movie came out in 2020. This is a comedy horror movie where three young teenagers try to save their neighborhood from a real estate firm that is buying up all the properties. So the neighborhood's in grave danger of gentrification. But it's worse than that, because the three friends realize that the real estate firm is actually run by vampires. And when they go and try to tell their community that there are vampires amongst them, nobody believes them. And let me tell you, I love this movie. If you enjoyed the 1987 film, The Lost Boys, with Kiefer Sutherland, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, I think you'll really love this film. I think of this as an urban Lost Boys. This movie is clever and charming. It's got a great cast. The three friends are played by Jaden Michael, Gregory Diaz, and Gerald Jones. And props to them, because they really do carry this movie well. You'll also see some familiar faces like Method Man. Always love to see Method Man pop up in movies from time to time. This film does have a social commentary on the dangers of neighborhoods becoming gentrified by large real estate firms. In fact, I think they portray this really well in the analogy to the real estate firm being run by vampires, because essentially they are sucking the life out of the community. So it's done really well in that respect. But this isn't done very heavy-handed. Overall, this film is lighthearted, it's clever, it's charming, it's funny, it's a feel-good horror movie, and honestly, I laughed a bunch during this movie. It was really great. It's a fun adventure. In fact, if you're going to make a vampire movie in this stage of the horror genre, I really think this is a great approach, because it's really about the relationship of the kids, their friendship, and their love of their community. I love the fact that when they discover there's vampires in the neighborhood, the first thing these kids do is get together and go watch Blade to do research. And I think that's great. It's a great call out to Blade, which is a fantastic movie. By the way, Blade was filmed in Los Angeles, although in the movie they never really specified what city it was in. But another big city movie, just to throw it in there if you've never seen it. My gosh, just go see Blade. I just love how they, that's their research. And then they go out and they try to destroy these vampires. And needless to say, a lot of hijinks ensue. It is a fun film, so I highly recommend this movie. You're gonna have a great time with it. I'm not gonna do a creepy factor on this, because there is no creepy factor. It's not scary, there's no jump scares. This is just a fun movie. And if you like the backdrop of New York and the Bronx, this is a great movie. It films the Bronx really well. It's always fun to see New York in the background, I think, in films. And, you know, a lot of times horror movies, for me, it's about the location. So for a big city location, I love this vampire film. Now, the next one, I want you to stick with me on this. You may or may not like this, but this is called Night Teeth. And this came out just this last October, 2021. For this film, we head to the West Coast into Los Angeles. And this is a journey into the shadows of the vampire underworld in Boyle Heights, where a long-time truce between humans and vampires has existed, where vampires can only drink blood with the permission of humans. This truce gets broken by an overzealous and power-hungry vampire played by Alfie Allen of Game of Thrones fame. Now, it's interesting that they picked Boyle Heights as the centerpiece of this movie. Boyle Heights is actually a notable historic part of Los Angeles. It is a neighborhood east of the LA River, and it is rich in Latino and Hispanic culture. In fact, it is considered a cultural center in Los Angeles, and it's an interesting place to visit if you ever come to LA. There's a rich history in Boyle Heights that goes all the way back to the 1800s. Many a movie has been filmed in Boyle Heights. Now, I'm gonna warn you, the critics were not very friendly to this movie. It actually got pretty bad reviews. Metacritic gave it a pretty bad score. Rotten Tomato gave it a pretty bad score. Bloody Disgusting gave it a pretty bad score. Really, the biggest critique of this movie is that it's a great looking movie with good acting, but it just lacks in substance and it lacks in story, and it's a little predictable. Overall, I would probably agree with the critics on this one. So why am I telling you about this movie? I watched this movie without reading any of the reviews. And I like to do that on a lot of movies because I don't like to get any preconceived notions going in. As much as I agree with the critics, I think the critics were a little hard on this film, but really, it was entertaining. I was very entertained by this movie. It is just a slick-looking vampire movie. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything here. They aren't trying to reinvent vampires. I think they just present them with a fun story. Again, this is another non-scary movie. There's a little bit of comedy element to it. And it's not, I don't think this film takes itself too seriously, and I think you'll see that if you watch it. Now, critics have to be tough on movies, and I understand that. It's their job. But the bottom line is, when I watched this movie, I thought it looked great. I thought they did a great job filming this movie. If you're looking for a movie that is based in LA, that has LA as a backdrop, then this movie has it all. From the ridiculously huge mansions, the downtown Los Angeles club scene, to the gritty industrial areas where the criminal underbelly do their biddings, this movie has it all. Again, this movie just looks slick. Also, if you were a fan of True Blood with Anna Paquin, like I was, this is going to be a great movie for you because this reminded me a lot of that series True Blood, just kind of compacted into an hour and a half. It stars Raul Castillo of Army of the Dead fame and many other movies, Lucy Fry, Debbie Ryan. If you're a fan of Megan Fox, she has a small part in this. If you're not a fan of Megan Fox, you may still like this movie. Also, George Lendenberg, who I think is great in this movie. He plays the perfect part of a young college student just trying to get by. And then, of course, we have Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones fame, and I think he is a fantastic actor. The acting is no issue in this film. Neither is the look. It is a very slick, stylistic vampire movie. The score is very electronic, so if you're into EDM, it fits the movie. Don't go into it thinking that, this is going to blow your mind, but it's cool to look at. Honestly, that's really it. I think this movie was just fun visually. It's got some good action. Yes, the plot is a little predictable, but at the end of it, it's kind of a feel-good movie too, so no creepy factor on this movie because it's not creepy in any way. There's not even any jump scares. It's not that kind of movie. I think it's just some fun entertainment, and if you don't want something heavy and you just want to see something that's visually pretty great, then I think this is a great choice. Now, this leads me to share an opinion with you all about where I think we are with vampires in this period in time, in this period of the life cycle of the horror genre. And we have really kind of changed the portrait of the vampire throughout the years and the decades. If you want to make a horror film that involves vampires and you want to make that film scary and dark and creepy and sinister, I think it presents a lot of challenges. Let's go back to the 1922 film Nosferatu. If you've never seen this film, check it out because this is considered a classic film. It's actually a really creepy film, even by today's standards. If you go back and watch this film, it's creepy. And they present the portrait of the vampire in the typical folklore fashion, which was a nightmarish figure. If you go back to the old folklore of vampires, you will see that they are dark, sinister creatures that are to be feared. And this is how the vampire was originally presented in Nosferatu. It is that very dark, mysterious creature that people hide in their houses to avoid. And even though they were once human, they are human-less. They are the walking dead. They have a desire for blood to keep them alive, and they're terrifying. And this is how they were presented back in the day. Now, if you fast forward to now and you watch a movie like Night Teeth, well, you can see kind of where vampires have changed. We have made the nightmarish figure of a vampire into something that's sexy, something that is a master of seduction, and more importantly, a character that coexists with humans and actually even has some human traits. That's right. Vampires, even though they aren't supposed to be human, they were once human, but we've given them back some of the emotions of humans. But in movies, vampires just really aren't that scary anymore because we kind of understand them too much. We've kind of explained them away, and now they do coexist with humans, and we've seen them coexist with humans. Let's go back to 1994, the film Interview with a Vampire starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Now, this was a groundbreaking vampire movie at the time. It was based on the novel by Anne Rice, who actually wrote Interview with a Vampire back in 1976. And actually that was based on a short story that she wrote back in 1968. So Anne Rice is one of those writers that really kind of re-envisioned the vampire a bit, and the movie showed that because we kind of broke down that wall between the very, very dark and bleak world of vampires and not understanding them and being terrified of them, to all of a sudden having a vampire sit with a journalist and kind of explain itself. And here the vampire becomes a little less mysterious. Another notable vampire movie came along in 2008 and it was highly acclaimed, and this was Let the Right One In. It's a Swedish vampire movie and it actually involves two kids. And again, this is a relationship between two kids, human and vampires, so there is a strong relationship there. I highly recommend you watch that movie if you haven't seen it. It was so well acclaimed that it actually got an American remake called Let Me In. But then even before that, we've had Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was, again, kind of a comedy take on the vampire genre, but that was popular enough to get turned into a TV show. And, of course, let's not forget True Blood, which I've mentioned before with Anna Paquin. True Blood was a vampire show, and it involved other creatures besides vampires, but at the heart of that show, it was a relationship, a love relationship between human and vampire, a forbidden romance, if you will, just like Romeo and Juliet. So we have taken the portrait of the vampire from creepy and scary to lovable and everything in between. We've even turned them into moody teenagers. Let's not forget the Twilight movies, which are humongously popular. So to make a vampire movie these days that is actually a serious vampire movie, where you don't laugh, one that is creepy, one that is horrifying, one that gives you chills, you're gonna have to reinvent the vampire again. And the vampire has been reinvented for almost a century. I'm not saying that the character of the vampire won't be reinvented again. It's very possible. It just needs some very creative thinking. But these days, making a vampire movie, I think you have to be really clever. To say that vampires live for centuries is not that far from the truth. At least not in film. Think about this. Nosferatu was made back in 1922. Here we are at the end of 2021 and we are quickly moving into 2022. Guess what? That will make Nosferatu a century old. Thanks for joining me here in the Chrono Cabin, everyone. Keep watching those horror movies, keep playing those video games, and I will see you soon.